actually in blockchain in one form or another? Okay, so get a rough idea of the audience that we're talking to. So, thank you. Next form, please. Actually, I might come ahead. I don't have to keep looking at my shoulder. Why I'm here tonight is Aretha invited me to come here and help discuss their project with the community here in London. I've done so recently in India for her. Read the work that Aretha previously published. I became very excited about it. I'm obviously excited about blockchain, but the vision that she's projected for how it can be applied to capital markets, I felt was very, very compelling. And she's a very exciting and very enthusiastic person anyway, so I've enjoyed being associated with her. Can we, next one please. I'm just having a bit of trouble with the dynamics. So, she mentioned my career. I started life as a code cutter, and I mean literally a code cutter, one who used a hand punch to cut holes in the cards and then feed them to a computer. And the computer was 32K, which I mean is impossible to use these days, but certainly we were able to use it. There were about 10 in the city that I was in at that time, and we made them work. And one of the reasons we made them work was we collaborated. There was a sharing of information, the sharing of ideas, and ultimately a sharing of software, or certainly algorithms, and some software. And we got these computers to do things. And I say that because in some respects, the blockchain community now and where it might be applied and how it might be applied, particularly into the domain of capital markets, is going to be a collaborative activity. Because there's a lot of players that have to be informed in one way or another as we go along the journey. So there'll be steps in the journey where the regulator has to catch up, or the banking community has to catch up, or indeed some of the other intermediaries have to catch up. So it's very much, my career has been, because you're a change maker, you're introducing systems to an industry, your career is always doing that, pushing the boundaries of understanding, and ultimately creating enough understanding for a new model to be adopted. And I think we're in that situation now with blockchain as it might apply to capital market. In summary, we're trying to make the world a better place, and I think you might be convinced ultimately when you hear, even if I don't convince you, Aretha will convince you that by bringing blockchain into capital market transactions, we will make the world a better place, and we will certainly make it a much more democratic place for raising capital and for appreciating the benefits of that raising of capital. Thank you. I think I've largely covered that, so we can go to the next slide. So the capital markets these days are massive, as we all know. Aretha mentioned the figure of 80 trillion. They're huge markets. They tend to be centralised, so they're central markets. Everyone has disparate systems that they plug into them. They are typified by huge flows of transactions rather than actually the deal. The transactions are the spawn off the deal to get the settlement done, to get the money moved, and to get all the registration done. In the case of the Australian market, one that I'm reasonably familiar with, a single trade will generate at least 20 subsequent messages that flow around the market, and in many cases, many more. These are all redundant activities, really, because the deal was done in a sense when the order was placed, in a sense. So the capital markets have, as a result of that, have these intermediaries where we all have separate ledgers. We all have error. As a result of that, we have errors that creep into those ledgers. We certainly have errors that are time-bound, where someone's ahead of someone else in terms of a particular state of that ledger. And as a result of that, we end up with significant fees or friction costs that is attracted to process those things require. It also requires significant compute time. So one of the most important points, which is not often realised unless you're operating inside a back office, there is often failure. Transactions fail, settlement fails. And we have a classic example of that on the next file, There was a failure in Seoul the other day, or about a month ago now. $105 billion was misallocated from what was supposed to be a dividend into a staff equity scheme. But instead of issuing a dividend of 95 cents, they issued a security of $1 each for the dividend that was supposed to be distributed. And it caused a massive meltdown. So it's a clerical error in spite of all the computing and all the checks and balances and all the different message types and all the intermediaries. In fact, it scared the stock market. It took about a week to untangle all that. And I think there was still significant losses. Now that's a spectacular failure, but those types of failures occur on capital markets regularly. Deals that don't settle properly. Thank you. So, as I mentioned at the start, the arrival of distributed ledger technology, which is now a mature technology, has been well proven. Bitcoin being the classic example, but there are plenty more rigorous examples of how the distributed ledger now can operate and can now get bought into more conventional markets, as I already mentioned at the start of the meeting. Now, if we think about how capital is created, these days, once upon a time, capital used to be created by investment of capital into equipment, land, and purchases, and mining in some cases, big developments. These days, more frequently, capital is created by intellectual property finding its way into a market. And often that intellectual property, the founders that have that intellectual property have run out of resources to exploit the intellectual property adequately. It's very hard to get conventional capital to back intellectual property deals. I can see Frank slightly nodding on this one. It's a lot easier to back a motel acquisition or a mining thing or a new ship or a new building. It's very hard to get some of the value up intellectual property. And often the founders run out of gas to get the thing capitalised. And I think that's one of the key advantages of using a DLT platform for new capital creation and certainly new capital value aggregation, because it's a natural flow on from people that have already been active in creating intellectual capital. So it's a sort of a natural use of their brain power, and certainly it allows them to actually participate themselves in the raising of the funds, use their own network, and use the network of others that might be attracted to that intellectual capital to convert it into capital on a blockchain. Thank you. So what are some of the advantages that a blockchain-based market would bring? Well, you get instant matching and delivery of the transaction. So that's quite different and quite distinct from current capital markets. Current capital markets have a lag, and until you get the settlement, you don't actually have the asset. You don't receive the asset. This gives you instant activity, and it also gives you 24/7 activity. So basically the market is open at all times, and one can trade, one can raise money, and receive the proceeds of any trades on an instant and continuous basis. It's distributed, so it's able to be distributed worldwide very easily. It's easily accessed, and it's easily observed 24/7. So it's observable on any mark, on any device, and in any location. It eliminates all those inter-party messaging because we're all dealing off the one ledger. So the opportunity for error is eliminated very quickly, and as a result of that, the need for a significant fee basis to do any of these transactions is eliminated. So it's a natural evolution in some respects from current market methodologies, but it does have the effect of reducing the fees, the cost of transactions to close to zero. Thank you. So because it offers a path of least resistance, our thesis is that it also offers a path towards higher returns for the natural stakeholders, being either the founders or the people who are prepared to invest with the founders. So thank you. So it's our thesis that it's the right time now to bring in, and Rifa mentioned some examples of this, it's the right time now to bring DLT into the capital markets sphere, and it's our intention to invest heavily into that from now on. The process of investing in her platform has started now, and that's what we're going to deliver on. And particularly to provide the opportunity for all to be able to access capital the raising of capital in a fair and equal way. Thank you. So money always flows ultimately money always flows along a path of least resistance. I think as we build this facility, we'll find that it will attract money from other capital players. Thank you. So as Arifa mentioned, we're now starting the process of raising the initial capital, the pre-ICO capital, and that goes on the road it's on the road now because I've already committed. So. And there was 2 or 3 others already in, so we're raising capital now. And I suggest that you start thinking seriously about this and discussing it with your colleagues. The future of capital markets is decentralised. The spectacular success of Bitcoin and other ICOs has shown just how decentralised it can become and how quickly it can be taken up. And actually, quite interestingly, that graph on the left shows you just how widely spread access to the ICOs has been in the last few years. It's quite a mature market already. And also the spending on blockchain technology is growing again at a very rapid rate. Thank you. So I mentioned the high fees, most of you would be aware, but to raise capital on a conventional market, fees can be as much as 10% of the capital raised, particularly if it's a low raising, or low capital raising, because there's some flat fees that you've got to commit to. So this is a burden to the owners of that enterprise that they didn't factor into their building. Our particular platform will have no fees, there's no fees for listing. There'll be some modest fees for operating the thing, but there's no listing fees. Thank you. And that goes to the point that trust in the old system was quite costly because you had to trust your advisors to look after your assets for you and to conduct the transactions, and they had passive costs associated around them. Under this model that we're proposing, there will be no there's no intermediary to be rewarded that needs to be rewarded to the trusters in the blockchain architecture. Thank you. Now the significant aspect of Himalaya Capital's exchange is that it will take the trouble to codify the securities that are listed such that they are securities tokens, so that they are compliant in the market that they're listed in and are designed to conform to the securities trading regulations in those markets. And that's quite a difference from these initial coin offerings that are quite useful for raising capital, but are on the borderline as to whether they are actually securities or not. We are quite deliberately going into this with the intention of creating tokens that are legitimate in the market in which they're listed, so that they do conform to the regulations of that market, so they can be relied upon to be compliant. And I think that's quite a different insight that Arifa has got into our design, which I think will help power it forward. Thank you. I've got 2 or 3 foils on that topic, so what are we doing with these foils afterwards? They're going to be distributed to the group, the talk. Does this talk go out to the... No. Okay. Well, hello? Yeah. The key aspect, the key takeout for this meeting is that the smart contracts that we're going to use to drive the blockchain for these tokens will be defined in a manner that is provably compliant with the market in which they're listed. So initially there's some usual suspects that you will do that in, but progressively we would hope to do that in multiple jurisdictions and continue to comply with the securities regulations that pertain to the issue of tokens in those markets. And that's the third foil on the same point. But there's quite a lot of detail on those, which I suggest we do put up somewhere for people to access, rather than read them all out here. Thank you. So, I touched on this earlier. So, in the case of Himalaya Capital, we're going to move along a journey which is initially an initial coin offering to fund the company. There'll be tokens that stay within the, or you receive the tokens. The money raised from those tokens will stay in the company and be used to build the platform. The platform will then be used to issue on behalf of clients that are raising capital.
You just have to keep it a bit away.
Hold on. Yeah. The platform will be used for clients who are now raising capital. Hello? Once the platform is built, it will be used to allow people to raise capital for their own enterprises, and they will be securities tokens, i.e. tokens that are designed for a commercial purpose on which capital will other rights that the proprietor, the owner, wishes to have attached to those securities, but they will be deliberately listed as securities, not as tokens. It's a key point. To make the market actually work, there's a third instrument in there, and you'll see it in the white paper if you've had a chance to see it, which is a coin, sort of a currency. So the market, to make the market work, there will be a currency, the Himalaya exchange carries, called a coin offering, or a coin, that will be a basket, a weighted basket that tries to keep the currencies normalised in a way that the price, so you don't get arbitrary price movements, so it'll be a weighted basket of 5 or 6 currencies. It gives you a uniform, hopefully some degree of uniform pricing as time goes by on the way that the securities are listed. And all of that stuff, can we go to the next one? Because I think I've got the time sheet in there. So it'll be based on Bitcoin as a primary way of entry. The Ethereum platform for the smart contracts that will drive this particular market, and then use the Himalaya Capital idea that I just described in terms of securities tokens for the raising of capital. So it'll be a continuous market that operates automatically without any intervention by middlemen or intermediaries, running off the smart contracts that are defined in those 3 columns. Thank you. And here's the ultimate definition of it, which I'll read out. Himalaya Capital is a blockchain and smart contract-driven platform where issuers, which can be public or private firms, governments or non-profit foundations, can access a broad class of primary market investors, both institutional and retail, complete a variety of automated transactions and processes, such as book building, auctions, syndications, dividend distributions, and can issue a broad array of digital assets to investors. Investors of every type, jurisdiction and financial status can use the platform to learn about investment opportunities across the globe, the regulatory aspects, risks and expected returns, and to access due diligence supports, and to invest directly without having to go through intermediaries. The secondary market layer with buyers, sellers, arbitrators, etc., and indeed auditors and anyone else that wants to provide a service around the market will be provided for, as well as applications, sort of an applications library. The idea of a library of apps will be provided for. The system can first be envisaged as a single country, so it will be in one jurisdiction initially, but ultimately it will extend to other markets. So that's in essence what we're doing. Thank you. It'll be built in 3 phases. So the first phase is the pre-issue phase, which is the idea of getting the listing up, and getting it initially funded. The second phase is the issuing of the securities, so people bid for slices of the security that's on offer, and the second phase will handle the issuing of the securities, and the third phase will be the normal housekeeping phase that goes with owning a company, such as dividends and meetings, voting rights and voting at certain meetings that we might conduct. Separate to that, we will also build a market that allows these securities to be transacted. Thank you. And that's, in a sense, summarising again what I've already said, that it's a borderless, continuous capital market based on the blockchain, compliant, hopefully, as best we can with the securities laws, such as it is on the markets that exist today. Thank you. And we've spelled out the time frames. So most of that work will be completed by the end of next year, the work that I've described, and much of it will be completed over the next 6 months. Certainly the early phases of it will be completed over the next 6 months. And a lot of these materials are available on our platform. So I suggest that you get involved one way or another. Join one of our there's a Telegram group there. There's an Instagram group. There's a website. Oh, and are you going to cover the airdrop?
It's okay.
Yeah. So there will be a pre-issue. We're raising capital, obviously, but there will also be, to get this thing to microdose, there will be an airdrop of some of our initial placements. Quite a number of our initial placements into various communities to attract business. And that's coming up in the next.
That's the form. So people can go and sign up for the airdrop.
Yeah, if you go there, you'll find out about it. If you want to participate in the airdrop, so there'll be 3 tokens that begin to cultivate support for this project. Any more? That's it. So that's what we're doing. I don't know if that's news to you or if you've heard about it before, but that in a nutshell is what we're doing. Very exciting project, yeah.
Thank you for the presentation. I wanted to ask, when exactly do you intend to start with one contract that makes sense of others rather than to start either?
So, you know,
Why do you intend to start with one country and then to extend to others rather than to start with?
okay, so the question was, why would we start in one country and not just do it worldwide?
Yeah.
So the answer to that is we want the securities token that's ultimately used, not our tokens, but the securities token that's going to be the first securities token that gets issued on the market. We want it to be compliant with a legislation. So in essence, we've got to go to a legislation that is ready for securities tokens. And there aren't that many, you may or may not know. There's some that have gone further down that road than others. And then there are some that have gone too far down that road that you might not want to go there just yet. So we will be selecting a market from the usual suspects, and I think we want to say who it is. So we'll probably do the first listing compliance, and certainly the smart contracts around the regulations that apply in Switzerland. So your enterprise could be here, for example, or it could be anywhere. But the raising will be listed in Switzerland, and the initial proceeds from that raising will be banked in Switzerland. What you do then is up to you. That's where the security will comply with the law that's in Switzerland. But if we get the demonstration effect of that working, we will go to some other markets. But in essence, from the investor's side, it doesn't matter. I think from the investor's side, it's more important that they feel comfortable that the thing is going to be a compliant security.
It's a matter of security. It's just a matter of security.